my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today, you'll be guiding an ancient civilization from its founding. Your decisions will determine whether it will thrive and be remembered as the greatest civilization in history, or falter and be lost in the sands of time. Mosaic, A Story of Civilization, is a card drafting, engine building civilization game from Glenn Drover, who's the designer of the Age of Empires 3, Ways of the World, Sid Meier's Civilization, and Raccoon Tycoon. It's for 1 to 6 players, plays in about 2 hours for ages 10 and up, and published by Forbidden Games. Now it's on Kickstarter right now, so I'm going to show you how the game works, and I'll see you on the other side. This is a Kickstarter preview, so all the art and components you see here are prototype. You're going to want to check the link in the description of this video to see all the final art and components. Here we have Mosaic, A Story of Civilization, set up for 4 players, where there is some sort of randomization as to how the board is set up. Over the course of the game, you're going to be doing things like advancing new technologies or increasing your population. You'll also be building towns like farm towns or manufacturing towns, or you'll be making cities like populous cities or research cities, or maybe even doing projects like city walls. You'll be using taxes and tariffs, and you'll also be building up or moving around your military to give you influence around different areas. And you'll also be instilling different governments as well. You'll also be creating great wonders, which will give you lots of points at the end of the game. Like Stonehenge will give you 1 point for every 2 population you have. These will help you formulate your strategies, and all these score at the end of the game. You'll also be trying to reach the golden age in certain areas, like heroes or city-states or art. And these are done by doing well in one of the 9 critical components of a civilization that are shown by the icons on these. So if you go down those different areas and strategies, you'll be able to reach the golden ages, which will be worth also points at the end of the game and give you some benefits as well. You'll also be trying to reach certain civilization achievements by having certain things done, like having 5 cities get you urban civilization. All these will get you points at the end of the game, but again, different things to focus on to get you these achievements that turn into points at the end. Now, in addition to those final scoring points I showed you, there's also 3 times during the game where you'll have empire scoring. Now, these scoring cards are actually mixed into all the main decks of the game: technology, population, building, and taxing and tariffs. And they're seated strategically at the setup in different spots depending on the amount of players and the type of deck. Usually around like the bottom third if you're playing 4 to 6 players in most of these decks, sometimes about halfway through. So as the game goes on and players are going down different strategies and taking different cards, eventually an empire scoring card will come up off that deck, and that will signify one of the 3 times you'll do that empire scoring. Because after that, then you pretty much are finishing up and finishing the game and going to go to final scoring. So at somewhat, not totally random times, you kind of know where they're seated, but you're never exactly sure when these come up. But these are the main other ways to score in the game, so let's go over that. Now the board is broken up into different regions denoted by the different colors. And for each of those regions, you're going to look at the amount of influence you have. And influence, you're going to get 2 points of influence for each city and each wonder that you've built there, and 1 for each military unit that is tied to this general area. So red has 2, 4, 5, 6, where yellow here just has 2 influence. So whoever has the most is going to get 3 points plus a point for each city and wonder in that region. So the red player would have gotten 3 points, 4, 5 points for the empire scoring in this specific spot. And the player with second most, yellow, would score 2 points. You do that for every region. And each government tile you had bought would also score in each empire scoring. I have them all right here, but let's say you had city-state. During the empire scoring, you get a point for every city that you own of a single region of your choice. So some of these will help you score each empire scoring as well. So again, you get an endpoint from the wonders and the golden ages and the different achievements, but you're also scoring 3 times a game, showing you the different influence you have in different regions. So how do you go about doing this? Well, on your turn, you're simply going to take a single action, and it's going to go clockwise after that, but each player has their own player board. Now, each player is actually going to start with 5 population that you'll track here, and you'll have other things that you'll be tracking: tax, tariff, stone, idea, and food. These are the 3 other types of currency in the game, and you'll use these little these miniatures to track these. I sort of just have them up randomly right now, but you'll store your food here and your resources here and your wonders and such up here and money here. Money is a cool resource in the game. I'll show you the components in just a moment, and trade goods. So you have your own board that you're going to be managing everything. And so these are the types of things you'll be putting in those spots, the nice coins here. Again, check the Kickstarter link in the description to see all the final components and such. But as you can see, even the prototype ones here are really nice. Now at the beginning of the game, in reverse turn order, players are going to be drafting a single leader. Here's 6 of them. There's actually more than this, but here's what they look like. And they give you a special ability. They also give you some different icons of the different types of 9 critical aspects of civilization, but it also tells you what you start with food and resources and things like that. So they give you sort of a starting point and a unique ability, and you'll be drafting one of these in reverse player order. You'll also be drafting from 5 starting technology cards. So a bunch of these will be passed out, and players will be drafting 1 card at a time until they have, their 5 starting technologies. And these are going to happen because the icons in the bottom right are part of those 9 different critical aspects of civilization. And these are going to help you gain other technologies and help you throughout the game. And so they're also going to give you certain things as well, like gain 5 ideas and 3 points. So even at the beginning of the game, there's strategy as to what leader you're going to be, what starting technologies you are, and it's already going to form a good strategy for you, hopefully that has some synergies there. Now remember, on your turn, you're just taking 1 action and then it's going to the next player. Now one of the things you can do is work, and that's when you're trying to gain one of these 3 main sorts of resources: food, idea, or stone. And to do that, you'll look at your population and you'll get where your population is plus the production value. Now I've sort of just set these up somewhat randomly here, but we have 5. Let's say we're trying to get ideas. We'd get 5 plus 3, so we would get 8 ideas, and we would store them right there with those components. Now you're going to be spending these to do things like, in this case, ideas is going to be used to gain new technologies. Now the money is the most flexible currency here. You actually can spend 2 coins for any of these 3 that you want. So think of money as being wild, but you need 2 to spend for any one of these 3 main sources of currency: food, idea, or stone. So let's say we had some ideas, we did some production, we put a bunch of ideas here. And keep in mind, your board may look very different at the beginning of the game just because of the different cards that you've drafted, and your production might be in different spots. You might have a bunch of resources, and even with the cards I drafted, I probably would have, but I'm just showing you the basics here. Now, if you want to create a new technology, you always spend 5 ideas, and then you can get one of these 5 technologies. Now, you'll notice some of these cards have no icons, which means all you need to do is spend those 5 ideas and you can get the card. Many of them have some of these other icons. Again, those are the ones that have to do with those, those 9 critical aspects of a civilization. Now, if you remember, 2 of the 5 cards that I started with in the drafting, if you look on the lower right, those actually match the icons here. So here, I have 2 of these. I would need to have 2 of those in order to get that, which I have from my starting cards, and I pay the 5 ideas, and I would get this chemistry to add, and that would be my entire turn, and then a new card would come out here. And so with chemistry, you're going to get plus 3 idea production, which is great because anytime I work, I'm going to get 3 more ideas. And now I have also, 2 other of those 9 major aspects that will help me get other cards. So this is sort of the engine building aspect of the game. Maybe you want to gain population. So you need to say gain 1 population and pay 5 food, or gain 2 population, pay 12 food. Again, population is really important because that really gives you more and more of any of the resources you're trying to produce when you work. And if you use one of these, you would essentially discard the card and a new one would come out, for example. Now you can build a bunch of different things like towns or cities or projects, and essentially you'll spend a certain amount of resources depending on what you're building. But for example, if you build this, you'd gain a population, or here you'd gain 5 food and 1 food production, or 3 idea production, or 1 point for every one of these parts of your civilization you have on any cards at the end of the game. For example, a city costs 4 stone and 2 population, but the towns don't cost you anything. Or the great projects cost 5 stone and 5 ideas, for example. Now when you build cities and such, you'll build them in a spot, and sometimes you'll take a treasure tile like this. This will give you 4. If you built here, you'd get 4 stone right away, and this would go away. Or, and these are some pretty random at the beginning of the game of where these go, and some of them have them on them, some of them don't. Some of them have actual trade goods, like this. And these are very important, because as you collect these, they're going to go on your board, and different effects in the game will have to do with these trade goods that we'll talk about later. You might want to build a wonder. The first time you do it, it costs 20 stone and then 5 food. But the next one you do is going to cost 25 stone and 10 food, and so on and so forth. So it costs more and more each time you do a wonder for each person. And you just place it in an area that you have at least 1 city, for example. And we already talked about how wonders work with scoring and such. Now let's talk about taxes and tariffs. Now I haven't told you this yet, but when a city is built, 5 coins go here, and if someone builds in a port, which is one of the ones that has little fishes on them, you'll add 10. So there might be some money here as players build things up. And if you tax or tariff, you get to take this money. Plus you'll take, depending on the card, if you tax, you'll get money equal to obviously what's here, plus 2 times your population, plus 2 times however many of these you have, plus your tax production on your board. Where if you tariff, you'll take the money, but you also get 3 times your unique trade goods. Now earlier I had showed you putting a trade good on my board, and by getting unique ones is you're gonna want different ones because each unique one's times 3 plus 2 times the amount of cities, and plus your tariff production is going to show you how much money you get. And once you activate one of these cards, a new one flips out. It's either tax or tariff. However, either way, you're going to get 2 unrest here or 3 unrest with this card. Unrest essentially is minus points at the end of the game, but there are ways to get rid of it. For example, certain wonders and certain technology cards can actually remove unrest. Now, you can also take a military action, and it will cost you 10 to recruit a unit. You can recruit, a infantry or a cavalry, or if you own the siege engine technology, a siege engine. Now you can place those next to a region, just to say that they're in that region, or you can spend 1 per unit and move those. Now you can recruit up to 2 new military units in 1 turn, and when moving, you can move 1 some or all your military units once per turn, and it's 1 money for each of them. And as we showed you earlier, military is very important for adding influence to a certain area when you're doing the empire scoring, if you will. Now you can also select one of the government tiles from the board that are still there. And again, there's going to be certain things that are required and a cost. And when you get these, let me show you the other sides of them. You would essentially take the one that you are getting, you put it in front of you with this side up so you can see what the abilities are. And you can see they do all sorts of different things. For example, tyranny scores during the empire scoring. Or the monarchy, as long as you are a monarchy, you can gain 5 production of food and stone, for example, and score during the empire. So that is pretty much it. There's going to be 3 different empire scorings, at different times in the game, and then everyone's going to finish that round and take, an additional round, and then you'll do all the final scoring as I mentioned earlier. At the end, you're going to be getting points for the golden ages and civilization achievements and the wonders, but you'll also be getting points for cities and towns, like 2 points for every city, 1 point for every town. Certain technologies will score points, certain projects will score points, but you might have some unrest to deal with negative points, but some leaders might actually be able to take that away from you, and some other effects might do that as well, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. Well, there you have Mosaic, a story of civilization. And as I showed in the overview, there's plenty of strategies to create the civilization that you desire. Now, if you'd like to see all the final art and components and all the different pledge levels available, you can click the link below me right in the description of this video. Now, that's going to take you directly to the Kickstarter project page, and I'm sure the fine folks at Forbidden Games would love your support.